My name is Paul Kaplan, and this talk is part of the creation of an Afrikaner-Jewish alliance to be expanded immediately into a major Judeo-Christian and hopefully Muslim organization. So let's try to see a way out of our current dangerous mess in South Africa. In 1994, white rule ended in South Africa when the country elected a black government led by the African National Congress, or the ANC. The change of government took place after a huge series of discussions known as the Conference for a Democratic South Africa, and they called it CODESA. And the leading players were Mr. de Klerk, who was the Prime Minister at the time, and Mr. Nelson Mandela, who needs no further introduction. So at the time, the international left had put white South Africa under such enormous pressure that the elections amounted to nothing more than the unconditional surrender by the whites. Well, of course, many whites were outraged by this new dispensation, but the ANC won the election and became the new South African government as it is to this day. And the ANC wasted no time in trying to wipe out as much of the old regime as possible. They changed the names of the provinces, and they changed the names of towns, and as many street names as they could, and they imposed the ideas of Russian socialism in every possible way. But the most damaging thing that they did was to change the voting system to proportional representation. And this means that the people had to vote for parties and not for individuals. And proportional representation means that whoever is in power is able to decide who to put on the parliamentary list. And that makes it virtually impossible for the people to get rid of anyone they don't like if it's against the wishes of the party. And proportional representation also enables the ruling party to appoint the managers of any government organization, such as the airways, electricity generation, education, broadcasting, railways, hospitals, revenue, justice, policing, and so forth. And the government never has to answer to anyone but itself, no matter what ruination their useless managers may cause. So that's why we have to live with such incompetence, corruption and criminality on a national scale. And that's why, after almost 25 years, the ANC has turned this once prosperous country into a failed state on the brink of savagery and bloodshed, with an economy internationally rated as junk. Indeed, that's what we are, a failed and corrupt socialist state whose farmers are being murdered by the thousands as we wait for possible widespread bloodshed and savagery, with a lawless government intending to seize our private property without compensation. That's where we are. That's what we have. Now, the fact is that when we handed over to the ANC, we surrendered our ability to defend ourselves. And by so doing, we became utterly helpless. And at the moment, the organization known as AfriForum seems to speak for us. But all they've seemed to do is to pester the government with complaints and lawsuits, and as a result, they are ignored as nothing but a damned nuisance. Now, making a nuisance of ourselves is not helping us, and neither is it helping the millions of our black compatriots who are equally sick and tired of the ANC. And the saddest part of it is that the millions of disillusioned blacks are beginning to see just how helpless we actually are. And although they'd never say so, they know that we are their only hope for a better life. And it must be very frightening to them to see us collapsing like weak-kneed fools before the gangsters of the ANC and the EFF. Actually, to be fair, AfriForum has done one thing right, and that is to open cooperation with the Congress of the People, a small political party, otherwise known as COPE. COPE is still a very small party, but could eventually become a viable alternative to the ANC. But COPE knows that they need our help, and if we can't even help ourselves, how can we ever help them? Now the answer is that we have to command respect. And the only way to do that is to regain the brute strength we had before our brilliant leaders gave it away in 1994. If we ever are to replace the ANC and EFF with decent people, then we will need the combined strength of all of our Christians, Jews and Muslims. And an Afrikaans and Jewish alliance could be a very good way to start such a powerful movement. Now there's one thing that Afrikaners and Jews have in common, and that is a healthy respect for the scriptures. And the scriptures have a great deal to offer as to how to handle these chaotic times of ours. So if you want a scriptural view of our situation, then you need to get yourself a copy of God versus the Left. All you have to do is just click on any of the book buttons in this blog, and you can get the book in a few seconds. So this is Paul Kaplan signing out, thanking you for your time and attention.